Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm your host Miss KK and this is The Wave. On this episode, we are talking about all things retirement. If you're new here, thank you so much for stopping by. We really appreciate, and if you are already a returning subscriber, an awesome appreciation for always returning to check what we have on the show. Alright, today I am going to be speaking about retirement, and I'm doing this in response with the social media uproar that went about last week when the changes in the FIMA Act that are expected to come into force came to light into the social media. You are probably expecting me to start debating what the changes are, whether there was proper consultation involved, whether they are in the best interest of the consumer, or whether I actually think you should be resigning by October 2022. But just before we get into the debate, I am going to do this into a two-part series. Okay, in the first three, I'm just going to be laying out the fundamentals of what retirement is, why you should be saving for retirement, what are some of the considerations that you should take into account when making this retirement planning decision, what are some of the products that are currently available on the market, and what are the tax implications when you either resign from the fund, withdraw from the fund, or when you eventually retire from the fund. And yes, I have made notes because there's quite a lot that I need to discuss and I'm not going to be able to get to remember all of that. So I just made some bullet points here. So if you see me looking down, I am looking into my notebook trying to see what my next point of discussion is. So first we are looking at the legal retirement age in Namibia. So I read this poll on my Instagram last night and it was quite surprising how there's actually a huge chunk of people that believe retirement age in Namibia is 55. Yes, retirement in Namibia is 60, but early retirement is permitted from the age of 55 if you have the consent of your employer, and that means you can retire from the fund without actually incurring any penalty. So legally speaking, retirement age is 60. Early retirement is, however, permitted at the age of 55. I have also thrown in 65 there, and you're probably wondering, where is she getting 65? I just put it in there because as per the Labor Act in Namibia, if your employer requires you to work until you are 65, they are required to pay you what is called a severance pay, and a severance package is calculated per one week of pay for every year that you have worked for. So let's just say, for hypothetical example, your monthly salary is 10,000. There are 4 weeks in a month, so roughly per week you are expected to earn 2,500, and you've worked for this employer for 30 years. So the severance package, when you retire, if your employer requires you to work until the age of 65, would then be the 2,500 times the 30 years of service you've had with that employer. So that is the reason why I put the 65, just to highlight that there's also other things that would trigger into your employment if you are going until that age. So that is the first point that we want to start with. And why do you need to save for retirement to start off with? The reason why you really need to start thinking about retirement planning is that you are going to have a loss of income. So right now, in the next couple of your working career, you are sustaining yourself with the income that you're generating from your job. But at some stage, your body will not be able to work, or you will be old to actually wake up to go to work every day. So there will be a loss of income. That's why you need to put measures in place to have money in order for you to take care of your needs post you stopping to work. And that need is influenced by how you want to spend your retirement. And we are going to start off with, where do you want to stay when you retire? Okay, so a lot of us don't live in our where we were born. For example, most of us are, especially the Oshuambo speaking, are from northern Namibia, where we have rural homesteads there. But we are actually now living in towns and cities, and we may have acquired properties in town, or we may be renting in town. So the question that you should be asking yourself is, when I retire one day, either when I reach 55 or when I go on early retirement to sustain myself before actually the legal early retirement age is required. For example, if you decide you only want to work until 40 and all your years post 40 you are classifying yourself as having retired, where are you going to stay? Are you going to continue living in your household in town if you have a house? Are you going to continue renting if you were currently renting? Or are you going to be relocating back to northern Namibia and going to live in your household? Or perhaps you have a holiday house in Hantis or in Swakop and you are going to be living there. So basically that is what we want you to start thinking about, because that would influence how much money you would need in retirement. The other thing is also, what do you want to be doing in retirement? Do you want to be relaxing in your house, wherever that is? Do you want to be working? Maybe you really think you are a full-time YouTuber and it doesn't really take a lot of energy for you to film video, and even in retirement you still be able to do this if YouTube is a full-time job for you, for example. Or you perhaps want to be traveling around the world on flights, on cruise ships, etc., and you would need money for that. So depending on where you want to live and what you want to be doing in retirement, it would determine how much money you would need to have saved for you to be able to afford the lifestyle you want to sustain into your retirement years. Right. Having sorted that out, then we are going to move onto the retirement, your spending needs in retirement. So yesterday I went onto the Sanlam website and there is a retirement calculator. That retirement calculator would ask you to put in what your current age is, or your age where you would like to retire, what your current savings per month are for retirement, how much your value of the retirement savings that you currently have is currently sitting at, and what's your desired income level from that you would want to get in retirement. And it will throw out, based on that, you need to be saving additionally this amount of money. And when I did that exercise yesterday, it actually calculated that I must be saving 23,000 to be able per month to be able to get the salary that I want to be in retirement. Of course, that doesn't have to be all in traditional products, but we will come to that. So basically, you need to be able to get to a position where you can calculate which costs are going to be there as part of your lifestyle when you retire, and whether the money that you're going to be getting when you retire would be enough to fund those needs. So let's look at some of the needs that are, or some of the costs that are likely to follow you in retirement. Number one, your living expenses, your toiletries, your food, your utilities. You are not all of a sudden just not going to eat because you're going into retirement. So if your grocery budget and if your toiletry budget was 5,000 a month, you need to be able to cater for that 5,000 a month when you go into retirement. Of course, that may be adjusted. For example, if your household budget, for example, on groceries is 3,500 a month because you have 2 kids that are currently staying with you, and by the time you retire, those kids would have moved up, maybe gone to university, or actually gotten married. That just means that you no longer need to spend the same amount of money because you don't have the same number of dependents in your household. So you need to look at what will be my facts and circumstances at the time I retire, and how much will it cost me to be able to sustain that. So the first thing that you need to assess is your living expenses. The second one is we need to look at what debt commitment do you currently have that is likely to spill over into retirement. So we are looking at mortgage here, car loans, personal loans, for example. So if you already have a house, for example, we that already have a house at this age, a mortgage is normally paid over 20 years. By the time I reach into retirement, I'll be well done with that house. So that means I don't expect my current bond to go into retirement. But if you are taking a bond later in life, say you take your bond at 45, for example, you might expect that bond to still be in effect when you retire. So you need to consider whether your current debt commitment will spill over into retirement so that you can assess whether you would have enough money to continue servicing that debt. The other things is cars. Most likely cars don't last that long. Maybe you might have taken a car 3 or 4 years before you retire, and you might have a year left for you to actually still pay that car when you get into retirement. Of course, banks do look at factors such as when are you retiring, and they may narrow or shorten the time that they're actually giving you financing for, but it might actually get expensive for you because the shorter the period, the higher your installment is. So these are some of the things that you really need to start thinking where that is likely to spill over into retirement, because believe me, you would need more than one car over your lifetime, because a car isn't likely to last you 30, 40 plus years. All right, so the next 2 things I want to just pause a little bit here and discuss about life cover and medical aid cover. These are some of those things that we generally don't think about because it's so far into the distant future. So number one, life covers. Life covers can get really expensive. Why? Because your contribution increases, and you are supposed to contribute to that life cover until you die. Okay, if you don't know anything about life covers, I would advise you, after you are done watching this video, go check out 3 videos that I did on life cover. I'm actually on my 3rd life cover. I had my first life cover, it was way too expensive and I cancelled it. I got my second life cover, it was okay until my broker introduced me to a product where I actually pay only up until retirement. The reason why I actually opted for this life cover, although it was slightly expensive, is I did my math and I said, if I continue paying for my life cover and it doesn't stop at retirement, by the time I am retired, my life cover will be sitting at 3,244 and I'm currently contributing somewhat about 715. So at retirement, will I have enough money to continue paying 3,244 per month, increasing by 5% per year? So these are the things that you really need to be considering. Yes, it's expensive for you to take a life cover that ends at retirement because the bank or the insurance companies are essentially taking a risk on you because you might live 30 years post-retirement and they will still have to cover you for all those years that you are still living for this life cover. So this is the one thing that I want you to recover. Assess what your current installment is. Assess how much it would be by taking your current installment and increasing it at 5% per year, whatever your inflationary adjustment is in your life cover, and see if you will still be able to afford that amount at retirement. Number 2 is medical aid. Medical aid is normally, by the time you retire, you obviously are going to withdraw from your employer's fund, and you would most likely to go contribute the medical aid by yourself. Of course, unless your employer has a benefit where they continue to cover you because you have retired in employment. So just check with your employer, but for many employers, this is not likely the case, and this benefit is normally just available to top management, for example, in many of the companies. So again, I did the math and I said, at my current contribution, if I were to leave my employer at 60 and my employer isn't covering for my medical aid because I'm now retired, using my current option, I will be needing to pay 4,000 per month as a medical aid contribution. So if you already look at 4,000 per month of medical aid and you add 3,400 per month of life cover, you are already looking at an excessive amount of money. So really, guys, we need to start thinking about what is the lifestyle that I'm going to be living in retirement, and will I be able to afford this lifestyle at my current savings rate? Okay, those are the few things that I want you guys to consider when determining whether your current savings will be able to sustain you when you go into retirement. And of course, life expectancy is very important. So whether you live 5 years post-retirement or 10 years post-retirement or 30 years post-retirement, that will influence how much money your money is likely to last. Because if your living expenses are so high and your life expectancy is so high, you are likely to run out of money in the first 10 years of your retirement, and you'll be left with no option than to rely on government funding. Plus, at retirement, if you are so used to using private healthcare throughout your working career, it will become very difficult to all of a sudden switch to public healthcare. Yes, the government is doing its best to provide for the healthcare of its people, but we all know the government facilities aren't always in the best of conditions, and we all know there have been times where government runs out of critical medicine, and if you have a chronic illness and you depend on the constant supply of medication, you might need to keep your private healthcare at that time. So I'm just putting this out so that you can start thinking about what exactly it means to retire. If you have a parent that has retired, catch up with your mother, catch up with your parents, catch up with anyone, and just ask them, how are they finding retirement, and do they think they were adequately prepared for that retirement phase? So that is really one thing I wanted us to touch on. So just to recap a little bit, we've already spoken about what the retirement age in Namibia is, we've spoken about why you need to save for retirement, and we've spoken about how you want to spend your retirement, and we just now finished off at what are your spending needs when you get to retirement. Those are the 4 critical things that would influence what you do going forward. Now that we've spoken about the various spending needs that you need to currently assess in order for you to determine how much money you would need to comfortably live in retirement, I want us to move on to how do you save for this retirement. I was watching a video from Nicolette Mashile from South Africa, and she was basically saying you don't need a retirement fund, you need fund in retirement. So as I discuss these things, yes, I may be explaining what the different funds means, but it doesn't mean you need to be saving only in those funds. I'm also going to be touching on other asset classes or other traditional methods that you can save in order to still ensure that you have enough money that will be able to fund your lifestyle in retirement. There are mainly three products when we come and talk about retirement funding. We have pension funds, we have provident funds, we have retirement annuity, and we have a fourth element that's called a retirement preservation fund, but I'm not going to be focusing so much on that today. I will touch on it, but not really in details, as I'm going to be doing with this first three. So the pension and provident fund, I'm going to start off with those ones. Those two are normally linked to employment. With a pension fund, it's compulsory for you and your employer to contribute, whereas with the provident fund, your employer may or may not contribute. The principal difference between a pension fund and a provident fund, though, is when it comes to retirement from the fund. So when you retire, if you belong to a pension fund, you can only deduct 1/3 in cash, and the other 2/3 needs to come to you in form of a monthly income or in form of what we call annuity. So annuity just means that the fund will continue to pay you a fixed amount of money per month. How much they pay you per month will depend how much you've been able to save over your working career after you've already, of course, drawn your 1/3. So that is the principal difference between a pension fund and a retirement fund. And so a pension fund and a provident fund. A retirement annuity fund, on the other hand, is independent of your employment. You don't need to belong to a specific employer. You can go just to the Old Mutual, the Salams, and the Metropolitan of the world, and you can just decide you want to, take out a pension fund. Because it's normally independent from your employment, you are generally required to set up a debit order so that they can get their money on a monthly basis. And the one distinction that I want to actually highlight here up front is with a retirement annuity, with a retirement annuity, you are not permitted to leave until you are 55. So you can, yes, it's not linked to your employment, but if you decide you no longer have the means to contribute or you no longer want to belong to that fund, unfortunately you can't exit that fund. Your money will stay there until you are 55, then you would be able to access the money. So that is the one key distinction between a provident fund, a pension fund, and a retirement annuity. So a pension and a provident fund, though, you can resign if you resign from your job, or you are retrenched, or you retire, and then of course if you pass away, you can actually be removed from the fund. So that is just the one thing that I wanted to highlight. So just to recap a little bit, pension and provident fund, they are related to your employment. Retirement annuity, they are not related to your employment, it's independent. Whereas retirement annuity, you can't leave until you're 55. You need to wait until you're 55 before you can leave. Whereas with a pension and a provident fund, you can leave if you are retrenched, or you resign from your job, or you die. Of course, even a retirement annuity, if you die, your dependents will get paid out the benefit, and this is done in context of the rules of the fund. Okay. Now I want to look at the tax implication. Yes, tax is very important and it affects how much we take home. So when you are contributing to retirement over the course of your working career, you are allowed a deduction from your taxable income up to 40,000. So the first 40,000 that you contribute to your retirement needs, whether it's in form of a retirement fund, or whether it's a form of a pension, provident, or retirement annuity, you are allowed to deduct 40,000 from your taxable income, meaning you pay less tax because you are contributing to these things. But because you were able to reduce your tax over the life of your working career, it only makes sense that when you actually resign from the fund, when you retire, you are actually taxed at that point in time. So there are two distinctions between the tax implication of the retirement annuity and a provident fund and a pension fund. A retirement annuity and a pension fund, the tax implication somewhat looks similar in the sense that both a retirement annuity and a pension fund, you are only allowed to deduct 1/3 upfront, and then the other 2/3 needs to come as annuity. So that means the first 1/3 is tax-free, and the rest that comes in annuity, it will be taxed at your marginal rate at that point in time. Whereas a provident fund, because you can deduct in full, the first 1/3 is tax-free, the rest can be taxed at your marginal rate. What I would like to highlight here is Compare with what happens when you resign from the fund. If you resign from a pension and provident fund, you can get 100% of your money currently. You can get 100% of your money out, and that gets taxed at your current tax rate, limited to 18%. So we have to understand that if you withdraw your money now, you need to pay the tax fully, and you paid at your current tax rate, but the least you can pay is 18%. If you wait until you retire, you have then 1/3 tax free, and the rest is taxed at your current tax rate at that time. But if you wait until you retire, the tax will be a lot lower, because at that time you won't have other income. The only income you'd have is retirement, so you are likely to fall in the lowest tax bracket. Of course, depending on how much money you are expecting per month, you are likely to fall in a lower tax bracket, so hopefully you get to pay less tax if you wait until you retire. So those are the tax implications of retirement annuity, provident fund, and pension fund. Again, just to recap, retirement annuity and pension fund, 1/3 is tax free. The rest that comes in annuity is taxed at your income tax rate, whereas with your provident fund, the first 1/3 is tax free, and the remainder of the 2/3 gets taxed according to your tax rate at the time. And I just want to round off here, when you die, again, the tax implications sometimes do kick in. With pension fund again and retirement annuity, etc., your dependents can get 50% of the value of your pension in cash. The other 50% can be paid out in annuity. But if what they are getting in cash is more than 50%, the tax implication again kicks in. So basically, what we are saying is that you contributing to a pension fund or a provident fund or retirement annuity, you are basically getting a tax deduction while you are contributing it. But when you go and withdraw the money at retirement or resignation, there are various tax implications that kicks in at that time. All right, I don't want to go too much into tax implication of it, but I hope you do understand a little bit about what are the tax implications and what's the difference between a retirement annuity, a provident fund, and a pension fund. The fourth thing that I wanted to talk about is a preservation fund. A preservation fund basically just means that you actually resign from your pension or your provident fund or your retirement annuity, but you don't want to cash that money out. You are transferring it to another fund so that you can actually preserve that money until you are at retirement. So if you resign today and you decide to take your full money into another preservation fund or to another pension fund, that money is actually tax free, but you need to do it within 3 months of the tax year, and you can't do it. You can't take the money this year and then 2 years down the line you're deciding that, oh, actually I don't want to spend this money, I want to transfer it. By the time you decide you actually want to transfer it, you would have already had to pay the tax implication of that. So that is just one thing that I wanted us to discuss. All right. The third element, though, remember I said that you don't need a pension fund or a preservation fund or a retirement annuity in retirement. What you need is money to be able to take care of your needs when you retire. So if you don't have any of the traditional retirement products that we've just discussed here, what else can you have in order for you to be able to save money for your retirement? And off top of the list is the fixed properties, for example, a house where you have it for rental purposes. If you have a rental house and that house can make enough, it's actually hopefully fully paid off, meaning whatever rental income is actually coming towards you after you've taken off insurance, after you've taken off the rates and taxes and maintenance, then that money that comes to you will be able to help you pay towards your living expenses and any other commitment that you may have at the time of retirement. So from fixed property, you may expect rental income, or you may have invested in shares. I've done quite a few videos on shares, and always I mention that in shares you can get money in two ways. You can get dividend, meaning the company pays money out to you per year. They normally do it twice a year, or they may do it once a year, or you actually sell the share and you actually hope that you sell the share at a profit and you actually make money out of it. So if you have some stock investments, then that means you will be able to live off some of that income that will come from shares. That is the second way for you to be able to save for retirement. Then you have bonds. I've also described what bonds are and the difference between bonds and shares. Just go look for the investment playlist on my YouTube channel. You will be able to find how to make money from bonds and from shares and what's the difference between bonds and shares. But bonds basically gives you coupon or interest that they give on a yearly basis. Sometimes they also declare coupons twice a year, so that means you will be able to get money from your bonds twice a year. But of course, if you are going to be dependent on bonds and shares, unlike property that gives you a rental income per year, per month, bonds and shares are irregular. They give you twice a year, and it's also dependent on the company whether they have enough cash to pay out those dividends or to pay out the coupons. Actually, coupons are fine because it's mandatory, but they can also be deferred. So depending on the type of investment, you also need to look at the timing of when you'll be receiving those cash flow, because if you only have bonds and shares in retirement, yet you have monthly costs, is the money that you're getting from bonds and shares going to be enough to help you cover the monthly cost? Because now your income is coming in twice a year, but you have expenses on a monthly basis. That is one of the things that you need to bear in mind when deciding which type of investment to save in order for you to be able to have your funds in retirement. Or you may have a business that is established, and I'm going to park it just a little bit here and divert a little bit around the trends that's currently happening amongst our people. We want to start with businesses with retirement money, but we must remember that businesses go into cycles, and the first few years of businesses are normally tricky. If anything, you might be making a loss or just breaking even. So you want, if you are going to be relying on your business to take care of your retirement needs, you want your business to be established already by retirement, such that you are able to draw a consistent income to live off from that business. You don't want to be gambling your retirement money on a new business. Yes, you can do that and you can succeed, but the odds of you succeeding are quite low. And you could be starting, say you are retiring in 2022 and you decide to start a business of maybe making or selling chickens, and because of the war that's currently going on in Ukraine, input cost of maize related product and wheat related product is expensive. Now your business is struggling because of the circumstances when you were starting the business. What's going to happen to you? People don't have money because if inflation is high across the economy, and people are struggling to even just afford to buy chicken. So you need to think about this. If you are going to be really dependent on your business to take care of your retirement needs, start that business at least 5 years before retirement, so that by retirement, this business is actually well established and you as a business owner can afford to draw money from the business in order for you to be able to fund your retirement needs. All right. And lastly, you have mutual funds. I did touch on mutual funds a little bit when I did our March financial update. If you haven't checked that video, I think the video is titled "How We Did Financially in March 2022. I did introduce a mutual fund to our savings, and it's also one way to control when you get the money, because the thing is with mutual funds and fixed term deposit, etc., you can decide when the product matures. So you can decide, okay, I'm going to invest in this product and I want it to mature at 55 because I want it to save as my capital when I retire, so that the money that I actually generate from this as a payout will be able to take care of me in the next 5 years, while I actually access my other retirement product when I turn 50. So what I'm trying to say is understand the type of products that are available. If you are investing in a traditional retirement product, which is pension, provident, and retirement annuity, understand the cash flow requirement, whether you're going to be able to draw the full 1/3 or the 2/3 or the full in cash, what the tax implications are. Understand if you are going to be investing in other asset classes such as rental, bonds, and stock, and mutual funds. What are the cash flow timing when it will come to you? When will you be getting money, so that you can determine whether your cash needs, your expenses needs are in line with what you are going to be saving. So really, those are the things that we need to start thinking about in order for us to be able to determine whether we are adequately prepared for retirement. All right, so I hope I've explained at least the different types of retirement funds that are available and the asset classes that you can invest in order for you to take care of your retirement needs. Now I want to touch a little bit on your investment strategy. So obviously now you've determined how much you would want in retirement. You've understood which type of products that you've actually that you can potentially invest in order for you to be able to have funds in retirement. And the next thing is, what will be your investment strategy? Investment strategy is just, any strategy in particular is just, how am I going to go about achieving what I want to achieve? So basically with investment strategy here in retirement, you need to look at what is your age and how long do you have to retire. Currently, I am 29, turning 30. If I want to retire at the age of 55, that means I have about 26 years before I retire. But if I want to retire at the age of 60, that means I still have about 31 years before retirement. That is exactly what you need to do. What is your long-term horizon? How much do you have to have before you retire? Because if you are getting closer to retirement, you need to start being aggressive with your saving, in terms of you need to increase your amount of money that you are saving. Whereas if you still have a long time to go, you can afford starting slow and gradually increasing as your income level increases. Number 2 is, what is your goal? So if you are young, depending on how long you have actually time to take risks, right? So if you are young, like say for example, I still have 30 years to play around, I can afford to actually invest in riskier investment, because I'm pretty sure in 30 years time, the market would have corrected itself, and if I've lost money in the first 10 years, I still have the other 20 years to catch it up. But if you have 10 years to 5 years before you retire, you need an investment strategy that will preserve your capital and that will start generating an income. So depending on where you are, how old you are, it will determine whether you want to look for an investment that is risky, or you want to look for an investment that will preserve your capital and that will start generating your money. And your life expectancy, remember we said that life expectancy is how long do you have to live post-retirement, and the shorter your life expectancy, from a financial perspective, the better it is, because that means you will be able to fund your lifestyle with the remaining portion of your life with the limited amount of money you have. But we all want to live longer, we all want to enjoy life, but the longer you live, the more difficult and the more expensive it becomes, because if you deplete your savings too quickly, then that means you would be left with you have a phase in your life where you still have a life left to live and you don't have money. So life expectancy really just helps you determine what will be your safe withdrawal rate. How much money can you afford to take out from your saving every single year without depleting it, taking into consideration how long you still have to live. So life expectancy is very, very important, because with improved technology, with improved medicine, with improved lifestyle choices that people are beginning to make, we are exercising, we are eating healthy, we are expecting to live longer. But the longer we live, the more expensive it becomes, and the more we need to plan for the eventuality of us actually living 20 years post-retirement. So really, that's all I wanted to discuss today with regards to retirement. I just wanted to bring it out here, and I want you to start thinking, what is your retirement age? Why do you need to plan for retirement? What savings are available for you? What do you need to consider when determining your lifestyle, your retirement savings? And what are the tax implications when you are actually accessing retirement? This is all the things that we need to be thinking about in order for us to be able to make informed decisions. Alright, so that is really all we had from today's discussion. We were laying the foundation of what retirement is and what consideration we need to do. And up next, I am then going to look at the FEMA Act changes. What are the changes that have been made? How is it going to affect you? What are some of the considerations when deciding what's your next move regarding whether you should be resigning before October or not? But until next time, it is goodbye and thank you. And as usual, please stay safe. Bye-bye.